Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Bald Metal Nerd coming at you with another video. A little while back, I did some videos about overrated and underrated rock bands, so I figured I would do the same pair of videos for metal. I figured it would be a lot of fun to do this, at least fun for me. So this one is going to be who I feel are the most top overrated metal bands that are around. Basically, bands that I think get way too much attention compared to what their actual, you know, talent skill level is. And I kind of like two of these bands, and I'll say which ones I like when I mention them. But you know, so without further ado, let's go ahead and start talking about it. Right now we've got I don't know if this is going to be long lasting or not because these bands have been famous for maybe the past, I want to say maybe 5 years, give or take. Now in 5 years, will they still be famous? Hard to say. The bands I'm talking about are Avenged Sevenfold and Five Finger Death Punch. Um, yeah, I feel these radio metal bands are extremely bland and generic, very uninspiring music. Um, Yet they sell, tons and tons of albums and get tons and tons of attention because they're watered down radio metal. It's just nothing about them is inspiring. Nothing about them, is even good. I mean, I don't have much else to say about it. I don't feel that those bands deserve their success really in the least. They're probably some of the worst bands on this list. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about them. Moving on, the next level up from that is Godsmack. Now, in other bands of like that era. Now, Godsmack isn't getting quite the attention that they used to get. Um, in my opinion, what their music is watered down, third generation grunge metal. Um, because by the time they came along, grunge had already risen and fallen. But if you listen to their sound, it's very reminiscent of some of the grunge stuff, and it's slightly heavier, but it's definitely watered down. It's just not great music. Are they better than Avenged Sevenfold and Five? Yeah, sure, but that's not really much of an accomplishment in my opinion. Um, yeah, just another bland, kind of boring band that got way more attention than what they should have. Um, After that, the next band on this list is going to be now. This band I think has some talent, and I actually kind of like them. I don't hate this band by any stretch of the imagination, uh, but I feel that their influence is a lot bigger than what it should be. Not that they're a bad band or horrible or anything, but I think this just I have no idea why their fan base is so large. I have a feeling why, and I'll mention after I mention the band's name. The band is Slipknot. I think probably just their image and with the costumes and masks and everything really got them a lot more fans than maybe they would have got based on their music. And their music isn't bad. I would rate it as far as radio metal goes, it's actually really quite good. The stuff you hear on the radio is, of course, a tiny cross section of it, but compared to all of the other stuff you hear on it, it's kind of at the top tier of what's played on the radio. But it's not in the scope of wider heavy metal. It's just highly average music. It's not incredibly inspiring. It's not incredibly great. It's okay. I don't hate it, but it's not the greatest thing since sliced bread either. And that's going to bring me to a band that I feel, this is going to be probably my most controversial one I'm about to bring up next. You know, and I think they're overrated? Yes and no. The band I'm talking about is Pantera. Okay. Obviously, gigantic band. You know, they really kind of kept metal in the main, well, not in the mainstream, but they had a huge influence on the underground and everything. No doubt about it, in the 90s, Pantera had a huge influence, absolutely gigantic. But, you know, they totally, I mean, obviously everybody knows now that they started off as a glam band, writing really shitty music, you know. And they ripped off X-Horror completely as far as their, you know, when Cowboys from Hell came out. That's this, but honestly, they do that sound better than X-Horror ever did. I mean, Cowboys from Hell is a classic. I mean, that album is it's great. I mean, Pantera has put out some really great music. Some of it, like that and Vulgar Display of Power, honestly, are two of my favorite albums. I actually love those albums, but, you know, Far Beyond Driven, not bad. After that, in my opinion, the quality of their music suffered some. Again, just opinion. But I think the amount of attention and reverence they hold in the metal community, I think, is a little bit larger than what their actual music, in my opinion, merits. But I can kind of see why they are so revered. It's probably because of what they were putting out during, you know, metal's dark ages of the 90s. So I think that has a lot to do with why Pantera is so revered, even though they put out like two incredible albums, one pretty solid album, and then two okay-ish albums. And then, of course, a bunch of shit albums before that, but we won't talk about those. Now, there are some honorable mentions, and people list these bands as being overrated. I don't agree. I don't agree that these bands are overrated. I think these bands deserve every bit of recognition that they get. A lot of people say a lot of the more famous bands like Metallica, Megadeth, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, you know, basically all the biggest, Anthrax, Testament, whatever, they all say that those are some, like, overrated bands. I don't think those bands are overrated at all. Now, granted, are some of those bands producing shitty music nowadays? Absolutely. And have some of those bands produce shitty music over their careers? Absolutely. But every single one of those bands deserves their place in metal because all of those bands are absolutely giants in the field. They totally revolutionized it, totally changed it. Huge, and a lot of their music is so incredibly great, landmark for the genre. So do I feel any of those bands are overrated? No, not really. Do I think some of them should retire? Absolutely, I do. But in 30 years when they are all eventually retired, nobody's going to talk about. Well, actually, I guess some people will still talk about their shitty eras, but most people are going to remember, what they actually did that was great. So anyway, that's pretty much going to wrap this thing up. Obviously, in my next video, I'll be talking about the underrated metal bands. And as always, if you did like what you see, please thumbs up, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.